If you were on a dating app and the only thing you had representing you were pages from your lab notebook, would anybody swipe right? Picture this, you're in a movie theater and the opening credits roll and the camera pans over a really cool notebook. But here's the twist, this isn't a movie prop. No, this is an actual notebook from one of my former students, and it remains one of my most prized possessions to this day. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Coco's notebook. I have dozens of autographed Nobel laureate pictures all over my walls, but if a fire ever threatened this room, I would grab Coco's notebook first. In a world where most students are only too happy to toss theirs in the garbage can on the last day of school, this notebook is a once-in-a-generational treasure. Now let's explore why most students don't hold their lab notebooks in high regard. Part of the responsibility falls on us, the teachers. We emphasize the importance of lab notebooks in terms of future potential, often telling students they need to practice taking good notes because someday they might be in a profession which expects it. All this is another academic obligation, an exercise in compliance, points earned for work done. But here's the thing, Coco didn't put this time in for me. Coco did it for Coco. So listen, I imagine that a significant part of Coco's motivation was the internal satisfaction of a job well done. But she was also astute enough to recognize that this was an unleveraged opportunity for creativity. This notebook was her tape-bound time machine. It was a way for her to make her life easier in the coming weeks and months of chemistry. It served as an intellectual survival kit. Naturally, lab notebooks are designed primarily for recording experimental details. So before ever setting foot in lab, summarize the key points of the experiment, document the procedure, pre-design the data tables. This way you'll have a clear understanding of what's expected and the results to watch out for. Now, for those who don't consider themselves artistic, this is an excellent opportunity to start developing those muscles. Even thinking about visual layout is an exercise in creativity. And by the way, let's dispel the myth that scientists aren't creative. Science requires imaginative thinking, observing the universe, and then imagining the answers to your questions. Does that sound like a job for boring people? Use your lab notebook for more than just experiments, right? A notebook can serve as a comprehensive study guide. Consider organizing the big ideas into some kind of visual format, like a flow chart, a mind map, Venn diagrams. Highlight the connections. Imagine if someone who didn't speak your language looked at your notebook. Could they discern the relationships between the different elements purely from your visual layout? Practice problems are an excellent addition to your notebook. Now, I wouldn't put every single problem you do for practice in your laboratory notebook. Instead, I would use it for what you call your floor models. Once you've gotten a concept down pat, place a model problem in your lab notebook, complete with a fully worked out example. And this will serve as an excellent reference for your future self. Speaking of the future, don't hesitate to revisit and enhance old pages. Think of your first work as an initial draft to be marked up later. For example, if a teacher inadvertently or even intentionally cues what might be on a future exam, jot that down in a relevant margin in your laboratory notebook. I guarantee you will appreciate seeing the note, "She said this would be on the exam," when it comes time to review. So now that you have some idea about what to include in that lab notebook besides experiments, let's discuss how to make them more creative, starting with the easiest changes to implement. Neatness. Just be neat. It's a simple expectation, but as I mentioned earlier, it's one that most lab books fail to meet. In a world where digital communications predominate, there's something unique and almost artisanal about using pen and paper to write legibly. Think about the layout. And I know I keep emphasizing this point, but it is a fantastic way to showcase your understanding of the material through a visual organization. Think about just folding stuff. Experiment with folding the pages of your book to create interesting reveals. I remember doing this a lot as a child. There's an entire educational subculture dedicated to the use of foldables in the classroom. Color is a powerful tool. Code different types of information with different colors, highlight key points, grab your colored pencils, your markers, your crayons. Just enjoy the process, have some fun. The choices you make will help you remember crucial information, and you get a little positive treat when you revisit those pages in the future. Just remember, a lot of markers can run, so choose wisely unless you want an unintended example of paper chromatography when your pages get wet. Now, tape. Tape might seem controversial in some circles, but I say if you realize that you have something you wish was in your notebook and you don't think you could do a better job of recreating it in there yourself, just tape it in there. Just don't use tape to hide stuff. We want to learn from our mistakes, not bury them.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
Imagine if Dmitri Mendeleev had hidden his work on the earliest periodic table. As my favorite Nobel laureate Ralph Hoffman once said,
he's making mistakes, he's correcting them. It's full of crossings out. There are things that don't quite fit. This is a human being trying to understand this world.
You know, come to think of it, if there ever actually was a fire in here, I would definitely grab my autographed picture of Ralph Hoffman. I actually have 2 of them. Scissors. Think about scissors. I say as long as you're not using scissors to cut out your mistakes, then taking the time to choose where and how to cut really kind of makes you demonstrate a commitment to the material. Over the years, I've read many children's books, and look, a book remains one of my favorites. It has a lot of really clever peek-through reveals, and I bet you could use that technique to do some really cool things in your own lab notebook. Remember that your lab notebook is your personal enrichment and remediation tool. So surprise yourself, entertain yourself, create flip books in the corners or comics where the key ideas serve as the punchline. Design a lab notebook worthy of gracing the hippest coffee table in the coolest store. Listen, I can sense your interest, but I can also detect a hint of hesitation. You're thinking, I'm no Coco. And you're right, you would make a terrible Coco, but you are an exceptional you. Remember, the world is full of uninspiring pages. Dare to have yours stand out. Go ahead, grab your notebook right now. I'll give you a simple prompt. Draw a little picture of Einstein or Marie Curie in the corner and say, you know what we could try next time. And if you liked what I had to say here, check out this video here. Or maybe it's here, I never get this right.